Welcome to Truth Be Told About Going Wild. I'm your host, Robert Hensley, and this is the podcast inspired by the principles of personal rewilding. If you're like me, you probably sit sometimes and think, how did we get here? How did we become a society that was so far removed from nature that we fail to understand the necessity of having a relationship with the natural world? How did we become a society that was so preoccupied with resources and exploitation that we haven't noticed that we were destroying the world around us, the very thing that is required for us to continue living? And new studies suggest that this is not new, that the damage and this kind of capitalist ideation of resources and exploitation goes back hundreds of years, that we have gone through these waves of destruction in the name of expansion and growth, and then kind of come to our senses for a little while, right? And we start to work in the realms of preservation, conservation, saving the planet, and then we fall into this trap again. So it's this cycle. And that the only difference is that in the past, there were fewer people globally, and also a lack of understanding and a lack of technology to be able to find measurable results to tell us that we were doing damage that would take hundreds of years to fix, right? So if we look back to the 1820s, right, and we look at the Transcendental Movement, this is a school of thought, again, people understanding that there was a need. For them, it was more spiritual, maybe, definitely mental. Maybe they didn't understand exactly the physical benefits of connecting with the natural world, but they definitely understood that there was a need for a connection with nature, right? That's a huge part of the Transcendental Movement. And then if we look, again, moving forward, we see, the Industrial Revolution. We see the exploitation of the Appalachian mountain chain, right? The forests along the East Coast being decimated by the end of the 1800s, where everything had been clear cut twice. Streams and waterways were polluted from strip mining, and that an entire region of our country was stripped of its natural resources and had to be rebuilt in order for life to continue here. So we're thinking about those things now, and the way that how did they not see or think about what they were doing at that time? And again, in the name of progress, people can sometimes become very short-sighted and narrow-focused. We know that this is just the way of the world. And I think that for me today, having these thoughts of how did we get here and how do we get people on board to start thinking about how to rectify the situation, I just hope that we're potentially on an upswing of this cycle where people kind of globally commit to something greater than what we are doing right now, and that we start taking some larger, making larger moves, right? Painting with broader brushstrokes, if you will, to really try to protect the green space, the natural spaces that we have. Again, we cannot, as a species, right, humankind cannot exist without the natural world, right? If we took ourselves out of the picture, right, trees, plants, animals, everything continues without us. Everything goes back to normal. The earth will heal itself, right? But if we, as a species, decimate everything else, if we take away all the trees, if we take away the green spaces, if we run other animals into the point of extinction, our world will change, and not for the better. And that's a really scary thought. And I don't like to dwell on it. I don't want to post this particular episode thinking that people will have a moment of fear or doubt or begin to get anxious or nervous or experience rage, although I do hope that people will hear this and experience something, some emotion, something that will drive them to think about how they might take steps in their own communities as stewards to provide care for the natural world and their own environments, that they might reach out and connect with other people who feel the same way to start small grassroots movements in their own regions to help mitigate the damage that is being done industrially. And yeah, I just thought that this was an important conversation to have today. Um, so I thank you for listening, and I hope that you will tune in to Truth Be Told on all of our shows across the Club Paranormal channel on YouTube. That's Tony Sweet on Fridays with the original Truth Be Told, Bonnie Burkert on Wednesdays with Truth Be Told Transformation, and of course, Truth Be Told About Going Wild on Mondays. And each of those shows goes live at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 Eastern on their respective days. And if you have questions, comments, concerns, you want to know more about personal rewilding and what I'm working on, please feel free to visit my website at www.rhnaturereconnect.com. Again, that's rhnaturereconnect.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time.